Welcome, everybody, to APPify the Processes. Today we're talking about bill pay and outsourcing, a foundation for your future growth. We've got great information for you today, so thank you for joining us. My name is Michelle Wong. I am a CPA and the owner of Wong for Success. I'm the author of 5 different books now. They're all available on Amazon if you want to check those out. Co-host of the award-winning Ultimate Accounting VCon. It's a 2-day virtual conference for accountants and bookkeepers with lots of great, practical, high-content information to help you to grow your practice. I'd love to have you join us for that. You can register at accountingvcon.com. I'd also encourage you to join my LinkedIn group. It's a fabulous resource when you have some questions and stuff. There's over 66,000 members now, so I encourage you to join that. I'm also thrilled to say, I've been teaching QuickBooks since 1999. I started as a trainer for Intuit back in the year 2007, and now not only have I had the privilege of going across the U.S., but I'm now an international trainer. I've been going to cities all across Canada. I got to go to Australia at the beginning of the year for a couple of weeks down there, and in last August I got to go to London for 3 weeks. So I've really enjoyed going literally around the world teaching other accountants and bookkeepers about QuickBooks Online, so I'm really glad to have you joining me today. I'd encourage you to subscribe to my blog as well as my YouTube channel, because on my YouTube channel is where I'm putting all the recordings from these APPify webinars as well as some other great videos out there. Jamie, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, I'd love to. Welcome to the webinar today. With over a decade of supporting financial software companies and users, I'm currently the Accountant Channel Manager at Bill.com. I help accountants and bookkeepers go paperless by providing bill and cash flow management solutions, software implementations, change management, and product education. Prior to Bill.com, I've spent 11 years with Intuit in a variety of roles, including a QuickBooks payroll trainer, and was also able to travel around, mostly focused a lot of my traveling in the U.S. and India. And then moved to QuickBooks Payroll Division Project Manager. But I'm happy to be currently with Bill.com and look forward to sharing a little bit about our software with you today.
That's great. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that. And Jamie's got some information up here to encourage you guys to share this and tweet about it as we're talking. So I'd encourage you guys to do that too. I think that's a lot of fun. Okay, we also will have some prizes today. Those of you that are attending this live webinar with us, we're going to draw for QuickBooks Accountant 2013. Will be one person wins that, and another person's going to win either. I'll let you choose an autographed QuickBooks practice set or the QuickBooks Online practice set. You can choose, and I'll send one of those to you. Then somebody who attends all 6 of these APPify webinars is going to be eligible to win QuickBooks Enterprise 13, and that's valued at about $3,000. So it's a great prize. Also, as a bonus, those of you that want to join me for the Ultimate Accounting VCon, if you enter the APPify code when you check out, you'll save $20. So it's only $209 for a 2-day conference, and it's great value. So remember to use APPify. Now, what we've been talking about in all of these APPify the Processes webinar series is how we need to do a needs assessment with our client. We need to start by looking in the middle at their core accounting system, and that's where Intuit has QuickBooks and QuickBooks Online for us. So they've got the QuickBooks or the accounting system in the middle. So these businesses then a lot of times need some other things that are going to integrate with that accounting system. And that's where we as accounting professionals need to help do a needs assessment with them to pick some apps and some things that are going to help them streamline their processes. A lot of small businesses operate inefficiently. Maybe they're still entering some things in an Excel spreadsheet. Maybe they're entering things manually, and then they have to re-enter it into the accounting system, so you've got double entry. And whenever you have those kind of inefficiencies, you've also got risk for data entry problems and mistakes and things like that. So we've got several different apps that can help you as you identify the needs of these clients. For example, as you talk to them about their admin and IT needs, you can also talk to them about how do they handle their documents, how are they getting data into QuickBooks. Let's say they need to get a lot of data in and all they have is PDF bank statements. You can use ScanWriter to get that old banking information into QuickBooks, hundreds of transactions in just a few minutes. So we've already had the ScanWriter webinar as well as the Intuit webinar where we go more in depth and talking about APPifying the processes. Both of those are recorded and they're available for you to watch on YouTube. Then you might also need to talk to the client about their HR issues and their time tracking and payroll. How are they doing this thing? Do they have people that need to enter their time? Do they want to do job costing? Maybe they need an app like T-Sheet. So that's something we're going to be talking about in a couple of weeks. On May 20th, we got the webinar with T-Sheet. Then also, when it comes to taxes, under the financial aspect there, we've got the taxes, and not just income taxes, but sales taxes. And it's amazing to me how complex these sales taxes have become. And a lot of us as accounting professionals don't realize how complicated they really are. Did you know it's not just by zip code, but you can have one house and the house right next to it can have two different tax codes? Also, in some jurisdictions, you can have, let's say you have toothpaste, and you have fluoride and non-fluoride. One of them may be taxable and the other one may not be. Or a candy bar. If one of them has a certain amount of peanuts in it, then it might be considered food, which is taxed differently than candy. The tax rules have become so complex, and Avalara has something called APPify that integrates with QuickBooks and QuickBooks Online to really help you and your small businesses, to help your clients to overcome some of those challenges. Then when it comes to your purchases, dealing with your payables and your bills, as well as your receivables and stuff, Bill.com is what we're talking about today to really streamline that process. Jamie's going to share with you how much time it actually takes to pay all these bills and stuff. So we're going to share that with you today. Then also you should talk to your clients about their other needs, like for their operations. Do they need an app for inventory, or what about job costing or scheduling? Also then you see if there's some of the marketing and sales and receivables. And maybe they have a lot of expenses. Maybe they have a lot of expenses that people are incurring and they have to submit expense reports or travel expenses. That's where Concur really simplifies that process. So all of these that we've mentioned here, we've got webinars for each one of those as part of our APPify the Processes webinar series. Each one of these has a partner program and special training and special things for us as accounting professionals. So I encourage you to learn more about them, because each one of these is a great way for you to start growing your accounting practice, adding these additional tools and these additional apps into your toolbox of your skills and knowledge that you have, so that you can help your clients implement these, and that can help you grow your practice. So again, you can register for all of them at longforsuccess.com, APPify, or you can watch the recordings on my YouTube channel. And I've got a link to my YouTube channel at the very end. But now, let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to be covering in this one today. We're going to talk about Bill.com, what are the key benefits and the problems it solves, who it's right for, which clients or which industries. Jamie's going to talk to you about how it works and some of the key features and integrations. We're going to hear from Eileen Stats. She's a CPA, and she's going to share her experience with Bill.com. We'll hear about the partner program for accountants, and we'll talk about some next steps for you. So we're going to go ahead and I have one more polling question here, and then pass it over to Jamie. So let's go ahead and launch this polling question. Do you currently offer online bill payment services for your clients? So if you can go ahead and answer this polling question for us. And Jamie, I'm going to go ahead and pass the presenter ball over to you.
Right.
And if everybody could go ahead and answer that. And then Jamie, we've already got about 77%. So let's see if we can get everybody to answer this quickly. Do you already offer online bill payment services? What do you say there? And somebody typed in, Diana says, yes, just started with Bill.com. That's awesome, Diana. Good for you. Robin says she thinks it's her day to win something. Well, good luck to you, Robin. I hope you do too. Okay, we're about at 87%, and it hasn't moved in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. And then, Jamie, you can go ahead and share the results and take it from here.
Great. So let me just make sure that you're seeing my screen okay. Okay, so we've got, about 80-20. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and share my screen here, and you should see a firm-wide approach to growth.
We're seeing it, but you're not in presentation. There you go.
There we go. Perfect. Okay. So thank you again for coming today. Basically, what we want to think about when you're implementing a new business process like payables in the cloud. The first thing you want to do is really think about your firm and what is it going to take in order for your firm to be ready to move into this cloud environment and to implement this new business process. So there's a few things that we've provided and we've kind of gathered for you when you're working with your firm and you're making this transition to kind of just help you think about this transition to the cloud for bill pay. So the first thing you're going to want to think about is making this implementation successful. So what type of risks are involved? What type of processes from your client standpoint? What are their current risks? And then how are you going to be helping them with those risks? And that's really talking about when you're about to present to your customers, it's really good to know kind of what their concerns are. So when you're talking about your solution, you're going to be addressing each one of those concerns. You also want to think about their business structure. Do they have the administration and the leadership buy-in for this new process for you to help implement and get this new bill pay process set up for them? Inside your firm, is there any business development that you need? So you also want to think about training. Do your employees need additional training? Are they going to be thinking about changing of their current job roles? Because a lot of what you're going to be doing is implementing automation of a lot of manual tasks that they currently do today. So we were just talking about, and we did the poll, how many of you are currently offering online bill pay? So there's about 20% of people with firm employees who are already working on the bill pay process. If that's the case, think of those employees who are currently paying those bills online, and you're going to help them automate a lot of their processes with these cloud solutions, and then basically streamline that so they can handle more customers. If you're not currently doing this today, the 80% of our audience today, this is something that you can add. So you may be doing a lot of accounting and tax support right now for your clients. This may think of it as adding a bookkeeper stream to your current suite of offerings. So this is going to be an additional avenue for growth for your company. So again, what are the kind of things and training your current employees are going to need? Depending on your growth and the plans that you have, do you want to add an additional headcount? Do you want to make this an entire section of your firm so that you now have a kind of a bookkeeping or bill pay process within your group and an additional team? That's something, again, to think about. And you want to make sure that your employees are trained and you kind of staff up depending upon your growth plan. So again, another thing you want to think about is what does that plan look like? You want to set some realistic goals, set some ideas for, what do you want to look like in 30, 60, 90, even a year out for your firm? How do you want to organize everybody internally, and then what are the measurement steps that you're going to have in your firm to measure success? What's the percentage of your current clients that you want to have moved to the cloud and to be on this new bill pay process? How many new customers do you expect to have and bring on board with this new implementation of services? So again, you just want to plan all of that out, and it's really really key to think about your firm leadership. If there's multiple leaders in your firm, it's not just buy-in that you'll want to get from your partners, but it's also direction. This is definitely more of a top-down type of implementation in a firm because you want to make sure everybody's on the same page and you have the same growth goals together. So why bill pay? You're probably asking yourself, of all of the different things that we just talked about and we looked at on Michelle's plan, why would we consider bill pay as a new way to grow our firm revenue? Well, there's a big opportunity with bill pay. So we're going to go ahead and open up a polling question. What is the average cost that you think to pay a single bill in an organization? So any of your small businesses or any of your clients out there, what do you think the average cost is to pay a single bill within an organization? Getting those votes in here. Wonderful. So it's looking like we kind of have a split between about $5 and $23. The most commonly, everybody thinks about bill pay process as the simple process of going and getting a check, filling that out, grabbing an envelope, writing on the envelope, who you're going to send this to, and mailing it off. So most people think about that $5 as being just how much it would take to pay a quick little bill. What a lot of people don't think, and thank you for closing that poll. We'll go ahead and share those results here. So we're split between the $5 and the $23. What most people don't think about is the the cost of everything else associated with a bill. So I'm going to give you a few numbers here to think about. 92, 45, and 57. These numbers actually represent the inefficiencies inherent in the daily financial management activities of paying bills, getting paid, and forecasting cash flow. Believe it or not, $92 is the average cost to pay a single bill across organizations. And this number goes up depending on who in the organization is working on payables. I'm going to deep dive into this more on the next slide. 45 represents the average number of days to collect on an outstanding receivable, and 57% of organizations find it frustrating to forecast cash flow. So interestingly enough, the bulk of the processes and activities around bill pay are non-payment related. 86% of the costs related to check transactions in the U.S. are for non-payment related activities like approvals and reconciliation. These are likely to be smaller, thereby making the process faster for more automated electronic payment methods compared to paper-based payments like checks and cash. And so that's why automating this is such a big process and a big opportunity for you to help these businesses that you're working with. Unfortunately, most small businesses, due to their scale and cost structure, they can't really afford the large-scaled electronic payment methods that are out there. It just isn't feasible. So they're not likely to implement something like that. So what you really want to do is find something that's cost-effective where you can implement it and provide those solutions to all of your customers, no matter the size. So they're not having to pay those higher costs for those higher implemented procure-to-pay processes in those larger enterprises. So let's think about who will this work for. So picture your life today or your client's life today, that new prospect that currently doesn't use your service. Does this look familiar to you? Today's processes around accounts payable and receivables are highly manual. They involve a multitude of steps, excessive amounts of paper, filing, people, and systems. And you can imagine the multiple office visits and clients, tracking them down for signatures and approvals, sending checks in the mail, and dealing with postage. Now let's contrast this with how we live our daily lives. I know many of us are currently texting. We stream video online. Perhaps you check email from your phone, or even wake up and check a weather or traffic app before you start the day. So why can't your customers expect this same ease and connectivity from your business? And for your firm, what if you could increase your revenue 3 to 4 times? Or what if you could eliminate the conditions for fraud and make payments for a client from a plane or a beach chair? Well, we're going to talk about Bill.com's accountant solution, and with Bill.com's solution, you can. Before we get started and deep dive into that, can anybody name one of the modules that Bill.com offers? We're going to open up our third polling question here today, get that kicked off. I love it. Anytime we put all of the above or none of the above, that always seems to sway the votes just a little bit.
Hey, Jamie, one of the things, too, that I just think is fabulous for accountants and bookkeepers with Bill.com is that approval process that you talked about. Because, you know, to protect ourselves, we want the client approving the bills to pay to protect us and protect our liability from payroll taxes and things like that. And so I think this approval process is just a big plus for us as well.
Definitely. Definitely. So let's go ahead and close that poll. Looks like 77% of us said all of the above, and you're exactly right. We do offer several different modules for Bill.com. We're just focusing on one today. If you'd like to hear more about the rest, we're doing a webinar tomorrow morning as well, which you can definitely catch. So just to deep dive a little bit of how this works. So for your clients, what Bill.com does is it eliminates the paperwork and streamlines your payables and receivables process by automating those repetitive tasks. The solution also provides the cash flow management for you and your clients, and it does this by providing an unlimited online document management system at its core, and then facilitates the safe and secure collaboration and workflow between you, your clients, their vendors, and their customers. Again, this is 4 members of the audience all working together. Instead of just, you know, you and your client, you're also helping the vendors and the customers with their document management and collaboration between all 4 of these parties. Bill.com then moves the money and reconciles all this activity with your accounting software and the bank, and we really decrease that double data entry. Lastly, it combines all of this activity into a cash management system that provides visibility into your company cash, allowing you to push out your payables and rake in your receivables, timing your payments perfectly. We're going to open it up for another polling question here, polling question number 4. How many steps do you think are currently involved in the payables process, from getting the bill all the way to paying it? I would even say not just paying it, but the filing that it takes later on, and then the vendor research that you have to do after the vendor calls and says, hey, was this bill paid, and when was this deposited, and all that. Even then to the part where your bank sends you all those canceled checks, and you've got to then match all those canceled checks to your original invoices in your filing cabinet. So think of all those steps. Okay, it looks like we are at 45% between 10 and 14 steps. So we'll go ahead and close that poll, and you are correct. In the payables process, there's currently 13 steps. Often, many of them are repeated. What we were able to do is analyze that process, and we were able to either eliminate the manual steps altogether, or we were able to automate things with technology. We're also able to add additional items to the payables workflow because it's in the cloud. We've built in an automatic audit trail, which can't be overridden for additional security, so you can see who added the information to the bill, who uploaded the information, anytime they make changes to vendor records. We've also added workflow management. We were talking about the approval process, and I'll show you what that looks like. The electronic document storage, so you can have all of those bills and receipts in one location, no more filing cabinet off to the side, or storage that you have to worry about, 3 years back if you need to go find something, what box is that in. And then also the accounting software synchronization we were able to add because all of this was moved to the cloud. So by implementing the payables process in the cloud, we are finding users of Bill.com on average are saving 50 to 75% of the time it takes them to pay their bills. So again, you're either going to be offering this, this time saving to your clients in their process, or you're going to be talking with your clients in your employees in-house if you're offering these services already. So how would you then present this to your clients? How would you sell bill pay to your clients? What we've done is we have an easy-to-follow 5-step process with tools and resources you need to introduce the new bill pay service to your current clients and future prospects. Our console has training tools, information, demo products that you can use, and you can leverage these when introducing Bill.com to your clients. You can wow your clients with their own leading-edge online client service solution powered by Bill.com. It's going to be branded with your logo, delivered through your own website. When you sign up for the accountant solution, you get the console where you can manage all your clients' accounts with a simple sign-on access. You have access to the selling tools, training, and certification. You noticed on my intro slide I'm Guru certified. There's expert and Guru certification, which you can get, and that will help you sell the service to your clients and become an expert on the product itself. Your clients will also get a significant discount on Bill.com when they sign up through you, their accountant, rather than on their own. And you have the ability to co-brand not only the console, but create a custom login with your firm's logo. So when your clients access the product, it'll actually have your information in your firm's item on top of it. And there's several flexible billing options that you can choose on how you want to bill your clients. You can pass on all your savings to them, or you can take advantage of that margin. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to just show you a little bit about understanding some target clients. So the first thing, and we've got a lot of rich information in this within our console. So of the 4 areas and ways to understand target clients, I'm just going to focus on benefits really quick. So what you want to do is think about who in your current firm, all of your clients, who would benefit the most from an automated payable process. And then from prospects, who do you want to start to work with and add to your current firm and growth? So when you're thinking about your benefits, you want to choose the clients who can most benefit from automating the bill pay process, and you want to relieve them from that double data entry. So last year, we asked our users what type of business they currently own to learn a little bit more about the people who are already using Bill.com. And we found that they're actually among several industries: service businesses, doctors, dentists, schools, nonprofits love our approval process, especially the board members, so they can just get a quick email on their phone that there's a bill to approve. They don't have to go to the actual nonprofit to review all of the documents. They can just do it right there from their phone and approve the bills, and they can have multiple board members review the bills. You're not just limited to one. Clubs, organizations, property management companies, and many, many more. So again, just think about the types of businesses that you're currently working with who move money. Wealth management firms as well. You're just helping people who may be traveling a lot, and you're working with their bills and stuff. They also leverage Bill.com for that process. On our resources page on Bill.com, you can also check out our client evaluation, who's moving to the cloud webinar, and it's going to share more of these results, and it also do a deeper dive into the different type of clients who are moving to the cloud and looking for these services. So that'll definitely help you out. So I've got a little bit of time here today to do a quick demo before we introduce Eileen Sass. So I'm going to go ahead and jump out of the PowerPoint presentation, and we're going to take you into the product itself and show you a little bit about the bill pay process. It's really short. It's about 4 steps. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to log into Bill.com. And when you're inside the account, you're going to have your home page. And what you're going to want to do is go ahead and upload your bills. Now you can upload bills into your document management system via either a custom email address that you set up for each client. Each client's going to have their own email address, and the bills will automatically go. You can take a picture of a bill with your phone. You can scan it. You can upload it. If you have the file on your desktop, you can go ahead and browse for that file. So you can come in here and you can take a look and say, oh, maybe I want to pull this document, and you can just browse for it and click upload. You can also set up a customized fax number if you want to do a fax number, and you can fax. A lot of people I know who manage a lot of payables, they'll actually do batch faxing, so maybe they'll have 20 to 100 bills all at once, and they'll just put them all on their fax machine and just have their fax machine fax everything in at one batch. What will happen is you'll get the entire document, and then you just work one page of the bill at a time and just process it through. As soon as the bill comes into the system, you're just going to go ahead and work that particular invoice. So you would just say create a new bill. And it's as simple as that. You're just going to enter the information from that bill into the bill details on the right-hand side. And what's great is Bill.com actually remembers the information that you entered from the last time you paid this vendor. So here's a vendor I use a lot. So I would just go ahead and I can type in the first couple letters of that vendor, and it'll pull up our whole list. Now, we actually pull in your entire vendor list, your chart of accounts, and your customers from your accounting software when you sync with Bill.com. So it really takes that onboarding process, and you can get a client set up in less than an hour. It really decreases the amount of time. So you just, again, we sync this information already in, so I just find that particular vendor, select it, and the system remembers different information that I selected back last time. So it remembers it'll remember the account, the department. If you're doing job costing, it'll remember that kind of stuff as well. You can do, different level of details. You just turn it on depending on, the type of industry and the business that you're working with. So in this one, I have account and department set up. You can also do split transactions if you want to do this particular invoice and split it about different accounts. You can do that as well. You're just going to simply enter the invoice number, the amount, and then down at the bottom here, you're going to enter in the approver. Now, you can have multiple approvers. This is a tiered approval system. What it'll do is as soon as you save this, it'll go ahead and send an email to that approver, and then they'll know to go ahead and approve a bill. Or you can set up batch notifications for your approvers. So you could say, I want this approver to get an email every Friday. So every Friday morning, they'll get an email which has all of the bills that they need to go and approve, just reminds them to go ahead and approve all the bills to be paid on Monday. So pretty great little system here where you can do that automated workflow, and you can add additional approvers. So you can come on down and you can drop down and add additional people as well. Okay, so you go ahead and save that. So that's really the bill detail where you enter the information.
Jamie?
The next step.
Jamie, real quick question. We had a question about the job and the item in the split. About can you assign a job or an item?
Yes, you definitely can. So if you wanted to do jobs and items, there's an additional place inside of our system. I didn't set this particular company up for that level of detail, but you definitely can. Under the company overview, you can actually change the level of preferences that you want in your payables and also in your accounting preferences. So I can come in here and say, you know what, I actually want to add more classifications. So I can come in here and edit things, and I can say, you know what, I want to use items in payables, and I can also say I want to use customers and jobs in payables. So you can definitely turn that on again, and it'll give you more options than when you go to add that data to the bill. So let me go back to the inbox, and I'll show you what that bill looks like now with that additional option. So here I've got department, customer, job, and then I don't have any items set up yet in the system, but I could come down here, and this is where I would do my item drop down. So that's where you can see all those additional details. So you have quite a lot of options here, depending, again, on the industry that you're supporting and the type of company and the level of detail that they'd like to add. And again, you can unsplit that amount and just have the individual size here as well. Okay. So that's the first part. That's really the data entry portion of the system. And again, as soon as you've done one bill for that vendor, it'll remember all of that data for next time, and then all you really do is change the invoice number and the amount, and maybe the due date if your payment terms aren't standard for that vendor. The next thing you're going to want to do in this step is that person who gets notified, they're going to now want to come in and approve the bill. So underneath payables, you'll have an approve section for the approver, and they can log in and now they can approve the bill. So they would actually have a bill here assigned, and they can either approve, deny. When they deny, I recommend adding a note to the bill so you can actually say why it was denied. So let me go ahead, and I'm going to assign this bill to me so you can see what it will look like here. And I'm just going to add a quick amount here so you can see what it will look like. I'm just going to throw in a couple things here. I don't have departments or jobs, and I can always change these later. So I've got this set to me, so I'm just going to show you here. Oh, teletype, of course. It's like, no, you can't do that. Let's see here. I'm just going to say it's an expense. Okay. So under the Approve section, this is where I can actually see now I've got that amount. And I can see here this was for a particular customer. They bought sports tickets. I can look at the invoice. I can see the detail. I can review it. So underneath the Approve section, I can actually select Review. And now it gives me the option here to add notes, so if I wanted to deny it. So I would look on here and I would say, you know, this purchase was for a customer event. Please correct the account. Okay, and I could say deny. And now the person who entered the bill will get a notification that office expenses wasn't the right. They could get that information and they can fix the account that's assigned. If you have access as the approver to also edit the bill information, you can go ahead and edit this here. But again, it depends on your level of access that you want to provide to your clients. Okay, so they may not want to have that level of access on the approver side. You know, the board member may just say no, and then it would go back to the person who has access to then change the account coding. Okay, so again, it just depends on how you want it. It's really customizable, and you can set it up how you'd like. After the bill's approved, you're going to go ahead and pay the bill. So under payables, the person who has access to pay the bills, they're going to come in here, and they can then go through and review and pay any bills. So here's this particular bill. I'm choosing any approval status just so we can see what it would look like in the system. Here's the bill information. You can actually view the bill right here from the system, from the screen. So as you're paying the bill, you can actually see the invoice. And then you can also choose how you're going to pay the bill. So we can pay via check, ACH if that vendor has and is part of our payment network. You can go ahead and move that money via ACH, check, or PayPal. So if you have a PayPal account, your client wants to move money via PayPal as well, you can choose that option. And you'll see that here on the side. You go ahead and select to pay that bill, and then you can decide how you want to pay it. Now, if you have multiple bank accounts for your client, you can select which bank account and go ahead and move that money that way as well. So it's really just up to you. If the bill was paid outside of Bill.com, let's say you still have some check stock left over that you want to go ahead and print out and use that for client in QuickBooks because you want to get rid of all that additional check stock, you can go ahead and just say, you know, mark as already paid, or you could say, I'm connected to QuickBooks Online for this one, so I could say I'm going to print the checks in QuickBooks. So when it syncs over, it knows that I'm going to cut this check out of QuickBooks. So again, it just depends on how you want to track that, and then it'll sync that payment over to QuickBooks, depending on how you want to do it. Okay? That's how you would go ahead and process that, and then when you're ready to sync, on the gear icon on the right, you would just simply select Sync Now, and it'll sync all that transaction over to your accounting software, depending upon which accounting software you're using. So pretty simple process there. I wanted to kind of walk you through it, and then just to kind of, have someone share a little bit about their experience. We've asked Eileen Sass to come today and share a little bit more about her Bill.com process and how she was able to offer bookkeeping services within her firm from an accountant perspective. Eileen? Maybe on mute here.
Eileen, can you unmute yourself? Eileen, we had her earlier. Eileen?
Okay. Well, while we're waiting, she actually provided me a little bit of information about her firm that we can definitely share with you until she is able to come on board. So basically what Eileen was able to do is she decided to introduce Bill.com to her customers early on, but originally when she heard about it, she didn't think that bookkeeping or doing bill pay was something that was right for her firm. She was thinking, right now this is what we're going to focus on is just, our accounting and that type of thing, and now, wasn't quite sure if this was what she wanted to do when she first heard about Bill.com. Well, fast forward to the summer or fall of 2013.
Hello.
Oh, there she is. Hello.
Sorry, it showed on mute, but I don't know what was going on. Yeah, so Jamie started to say my story, but fast forward to last summer, fall, and I had a client that suddenly was a brand new client, and I was going to be their 100% outsourced solution. And the client owner was in Ohio, and we had 2 different companies that he owned out in Utah. So we had people between those locations that were all trying to communicate with each other and coordinate with one another. And to add to the complication of it, I needed to start paying bills today, and I didn't have the QuickBooks file even ready. So I set things up backwards. I was using Bill.com first, and because of the awesome support from Bill.com, they were able to help me get it synced up with QuickBooks once I finally had the QuickBooks file ready. But in our case, we needed to get approval from folks in Utah. I had no checks to start with. I needed to start having the ability to pay immediately. And we had a lot of different people that were uploading copies of invoices. We needed to have anywhere access for multiple people, and that's why Bill.com, all of a sudden, I was really happy that I knew about it from a couple of years ago. How Bill.com became a solution, it was providing a dashboard that allowed us to collaborate and work together timely. I had documentation of the authorization that was needed from the different employees because of the audit trail. We had document storage. Document storage was a huge thing because we had this paperwork flying all across the U.S. We needed to have a place where that document existed and we could share it. Even as a document storage, even if we were using the one company to reimburse the other company, I was doing online transfers by the bank, but I still wanted the document storage. So I'd create a QuickBooks invoice, and I would build a sister company. I would still upload that to Bill.com so we could have the attachments and the documentation. And then I would go through, like Jamie just showed, and we would pay it by transferring it and tell Bill.com, okay, you're not going to pay this one. We've already taken care of it, which was an awesome feature to have. We needed to have anytime, anywhere access. I had a vendor call me one day and wanted to know where his rent payment was for our Utah, one of our 2 locations. And I was at a client's 2 hours away from my office. I logged into the Bill.com account and was able to view the e-payment had gone through. And so while I'm on the phone, on my cell phone with this landlord, actually the landlord was in California, but properties in Utah. He calls, I look on and see the e-payment, and I told him, okay, electronically, this is the third time we paid you, and it was submitted and cleared on this date, and he was embarrassed that he was not aware of that. It was a couple hours later that the Utah manager found out that he was asking for payment, and he called, and I said, oh, I've already talked to him, and I've already cleared it. And he said, wow, that's great. He was very impressed. Just the ability to have the payment selection and knowing what's due and what's coming up and due, you can go in and schedule those payments. It'll tell you as soon as you click on the bill that if you submit this, it's due on the end of this month. This is May. It's due on May 31st. It will have a proposed date to process by to be able to make that deadline with the estimated mail time, or e-payment. It knows that it's going to take 24 hours for the e-payment to process. So I can sit here today and schedule out all my payments from today until the end of the month. I don't have to come in and schedule it at that time. That is pretty awesome. The employees have expense reports on Tally, and they just absolutely love the fact that they can process through that and then get paid electronically. The application itself is incredibly inexpensive. In 7 months, we processed over $1.3 million in bills in vendor payments, and our average monthly cost is $151. Tell me, you know, for both companies, it's combined. For both companies, the average cost was $151. You can't beat that anywhere. And as an added benefit, you can have that access instead of going online to see if a vendor payment cleared. You have Bill.com, and it shows you the screen of the canceled check once it has cleared the bank. So at any point in time, you know what checks have cleared and what checks haven't. So Bill.com is not just a good product, it's a great product with awesome award-winning support, and I just can't imagine operating my business without it. I spoke with this client today with the manager that's out in the Utah locations, and I asked him, you know, what would you say about Bill.com? And he just couldn't stop talking about it. He said, where do I begin? It simplified the process. He'd never want to go back to the paper and mail between the two locations and headquarters, and he doesn't have time to deal with all the paperwork. Just the savings and the number of people required to do the same thing, he said, is huge. And it's quick and easy, and it brings us out of the dark ages into current technology. So the client is just absolutely thrilled with the process.
Eileen, can I ask you a question?
You sure can.
Okay, Diane wanted to know, are you having Bill.com enter the payables at that monthly fee?
No, I am not. We are taking care of that on our end.
Okay, very good. And Eileen, I know you've been using it for quite a while now. Do you wish you would have started using it sooner?
I would have loved to have started using it sooner. When I first heard about it, I just didn't get it. I didn't understand it. I thought it's a great product, but I can't see myself. I never wanted to do bookkeeping. And this has completely changed the way I look at it and what services I want to offer now.
Very cool. Jamie, did you have any other questions for her? I'll let you take back over.
No additional questions. I do want to thank you so much for being able to come today and share your story with us. I know a lot of people are pretty excited to hear you shared a little bit about the inexpensiveness of the system. So I'm going to go ahead and actually jump into a little bit of our offer for you today and talk about our accountant solution pricing. So I wanted to share with you, we do have the account console available. Our account solution pricing is not published on our website because it is at wholesale pricing for you, so it's a lower price than you would for your clients, and that again allows you to take advantage of that margin depending on how you want to price it for your clients. But you start off with the accountant console at the $49 a month price, and then depending upon how many clients you have, we have tiered pricing as you increase in number. So 0 to 5 clients, you're at $25 each, and $3 client users. 6 to 10, your pricing drops per client down to $22 a month, and then 10 and higher, it's $19 a month. And that goes back for all of your clients. As you increase, everybody gets that discount. And then you only pay for what you use, so there's cost per transactions as well. And then what we sync with, we also have import-export. So if you're not using, QuickBooks or Intact or NetSuite or Xero, we can do the CSV import-export with Thomson Reuters and Sage and other systems as well if you're using like Great Plains and that kind of thing. So if you would also like, we've got one more polling question here just to see how many of you are current Intuit ProAdvisors. So go ahead and let us know if you're an Intuit ProAdvisor, you're taking advantage of all of those wonderful offers that Intuit is providing to their ProAdvisor audience. Wonderful. It looks like a majority of everybody here on the call today is an Intuit ProAdvisor, and that's great news for you. And you're probably wondering, well, why is that such good news? For Intuit ProAdvisors, we are offering all members of that program, they're eligible for a special discount on Bill.com. You can save $228 a year. That's about 39% off your Bill.com accountant console. So everybody who's an Intuit ProAdvisor, you can go ahead and take a look at your ProAdvisor benefits. You're going to go to your special ProAdvisor page, and you can see the details for that savings and go ahead and sign up there. What you'll get is that Bill.com accountant console at the lowered $30 a month price when you decide to implement and use Bill.com in your firm. So wonderful. Glad we were able to walk through a little bit of that. We do have a few more slides in your PowerPoint. If you go ahead and download this, it talks a little bit about that award-winning help support that we have throughout Bill.com. If you'd like to take a look at that, you can go ahead and download that. And there's also some additional resources we have on some webinars. And if you're interested in maybe taking a guided tour or introducing Bill.com to the rest of you,
Uh-oh, Jamie, you're kind of cut
sorry,
out
my
there.
phone just muted. Yeah, so you can also
Okay,
take a look at and get a guided tour if you're interested in sharing Bill.com with the rest of your firm as well. But I'd like to pass it over back to Michelle for any additional questions you might have. Or
Actually, Jamie, we do have several questions. So if you've got a couple minutes, which I think we do, I was going to go ahead and ask you some of those.
okay.
So we have here. I do see that this is less data entry. I guess I'm missing how there is no data entry. And I don't think we ever said that there was no data entry, but there's just minimal.
Yeah, it
correct?
eliminates a lot of the current data entry that you do today. So what we did is a lot of the things that people do, it's very similar between vendors. So if you get a vendor bill, the same bill as last month, maybe it's rent or phone or different things, you're usually paying that vendor the same the same account codes, the same that kind of stuff. And so our system with the smart data entry, it helps actually decrease a lot of the manual things you'd have to do in the past. So we've decreased the amount of data entry, but we haven't eliminated it altogether. The way we have, and I know we've got a few people who are doing this, they're using something called e-billing, where not only is their client on Bill.com, but their vendors are also on Bill.com. And their customers are on Bill.com. So if the vendor's creating their bills in Bill.com, their invoices, when that gets sent to your client, it comes in as an e-bill and everything's automatically coded. And so in that type of a process, you are eliminating data entry because the data's already there. It syncs up, and then all you basically do is approve to pay. We move the money and it moves through. So you're really just doing like a 1 or 2 click on your phone or 1 or 2 click on your computer, and that moves the money and pays everything. But it just, again, depends on how many people are in that payment network to really eliminate a lot of the processes. So, yeah, that's really get into e-billing and e-invoicing.
Very cool. Now, somebody asked if you can tell it to pay with PayPal.
Yes, you can definitely. You can do payments via PayPal, check, or ACH. And if you're doing PayPal, I recommend the business PayPal accounts. They're a little bit less expensive than the consumer PayPal accounts.
And do you work with the TelPay in Canada?
So for Canada, we actually do everything in US-based. Bill.com is really US-based. It's also American currency, so we really don't do a lot of like Canadian dollars. We don't sync with QuickBooks Canada version. So just something to think about. We would pay if you're using Bill.com. In Canada, we do send checks to your vendors, U.S.-based checks, and then they would take care of the conversion on their side when they cash the check. Or if they're doing the PayPal process, we can move the money via PayPal. But it's really more basically based right now in the U.S.
Okay, and we had another question. Can you turn off the email notification in the case approver doesn't want to get an email for every invoice? They just want to log into that
definitely
account
can.
to see.
Yeah, so every single user has email notification items that you can set up. So you can determine what's the best process and the amount of time that they'd like. So you can say they don't want any, and you can turn them completely off. You could do a batch email, which some people like to just consolidate all notifications to one email, once a week, or one email, on the 15th of every month. So again, it just depends on your users and your clients of how often they want to be notified. And I always want to think about email as, how can you make sure that the emails they get are high quality and they don't become spam. You want to make sure that it's something they're going to pay attention to, because you want them to take action when they get that email. So yeah, you can definitely turn them off, or you can batch them up if you'd like and just send out one on a scheduled date.
And then somebody wanted to know also, when they approve that, does that go on an audit trail somewhere? In the event of an audit, you can see who approved them, and I'm pretty sure it does, but I thought you could talk about that.
Yes, it definitely does. On the audit trail, you can see when the bill was created, the different accounts, the items, the amounts, the invoice numbers, all that data when it was added to it. You can see when it was approved, who approved it. It stores all the notes. So the one that we just showed as an example that was denied, it stores those notes in there as well. So when somebody comes back in and makes the correct account change, that'll show up. And then when it'll go back to the approver to be approved again, when they do approve it, it'll show up as well. And then when the payment is approved and kicked off, when the payment actually releases those funds, and then when the payment funds are actually cashed, and then you'll also get the canceled check at the end. So all of that information is in there. People who run audits for clients who use Bill.com, they adore it. They say their audits with Bill.com users really decrease the amount of time it takes them to run through and see kind of the life cycle of any of the bills and transactions that they've used through our process. So the auditors love us for all of the detail that's on that audit trail.
Very good. Okay, now somebody else, some people are just kind of confused on how the bills get in there, and then you showed us, what you do once they get in there, but can you just maybe go over that step again for people?
Sure. So
and then also how it's going over to QuickBooks, because some people are thinking that they're going into QuickBooks and entering it there first. So if you could clarify.
Yeah, sure. So for QuickBooks users, you want to think about Bill.com as your location for entry. So it's going to be the first place that you go to manage all of your bills. And most of your clients are going to spend their time inside Bill.com. They're really kind of hands out of QuickBooks at that point, as soon as you implement the system. So Bill.com kind of becomes your master of record. You're going to upload your invoices and your bills three ways. You can fax them in, you can email them in, or you can scan any of your documents and then just drag and drop them into your inbox. Every one of your client gets their own fax number, email address, and their own inbox. So you never have to worry about, well, which client does this document go for? You just give your client that email address or that fax number, and then they just send all of that information into their individual cloud inbox. Once that document is in there, you can mouse over it and get a larger thumbnail of that particular bill, or you can actually say, okay, I want to create this as a bill, and then that's when you start working the bill. You go ahead and click on that, create a new bill, and you just drop down and select the vendor and add the information in. Now, some people, when you're implementing Bill.com, you may not have enough resources right now to really start doing a lot of the data entry. So we do have a Bill.com data entry team. They work on the West Coast. They're available if you'd like to implement them for your clients. What they do is they'll enter the top 5 levels of data for every invoice. They'll go ahead and enter the vendor name, the vendor, the invoice amount, the invoice number, and then the due date and date due, or the bill date and date due. And then they send it to you in the firm to go ahead and enter in the account codes, because they don't know which expense accounts that you want to apply a particular transaction to. And so they'd actually send it to you then as the first tiered approver to go in and make the correct accounts, and then you can then send it to a next approver from the business to move the money. So those are really the ways that you're going to enter the information in. Does that clarify a little?
Yes, that does. And then it is syncing and sending that data into QuickBooks, so you don't have to do that double entry.
Exactly. So on the back side, after you've entered the information in, how does it sync into the accounting software? We actually break up the transaction into multiple stages. So the first stage of the bill is when you create the bill. We actually, if you're in the middle of processing and creating a bill, as soon as you've created that and you sync with QuickBooks, the system will create that bill inside QuickBooks. And it looks exactly like a bill that you would normally generate in QuickBooks, but you didn't have to do anything. Bill.com did it for you. And then what we do is after it's approved and you do your payment, we also sync the payment. If at any time through that process you make any changes to the vendor, let's say you change their address or you change the vendor name or any of that kind of information, we sync the vendor data as well into the vendor record. And then as soon as the payment is made and received, we also get that approval, and that comes through as well as that canceled payment from the bank. So we sync all of that information. We call that the funds transfer when the money actually moves. So we sync all of that information over to your QuickBooks software, and so everything already comes over reconciled as journal entries, so you don't have to go in and key everything and make those changes. We do it all for you. We move the money in something called a Bill.com money out clearing account. And that's the money that we've moved to pay the bills for you. We write everything off of a Bill.com account, so your clients never have their client bank account on any of the checks that move via mail. So it, again, is additional layer of security, so you're protecting your clients from check washing and any fraud from that check transfer in the mail. When we sync, again, all that information into your QuickBooks system.
Yeah, and I think that's a big point too, Jamie, is that it does help reduce the risk of fraud. And payables is one of the biggest areas when it comes to fraud, and it does help eliminate, or not eliminate, but reduce that risk quite a bit. So that's a good one there. Jamie, there's lots of questions that we couldn't get to today. So can you go ahead and tell them again where they can go for more information?
Sure. You can go to www.bill.com, and then in the center tab on our home screen, there's a For Accountants section. That's all just specifically for accountants and bookkeepers and people who are going to be using Bill.com for multiple clients. We'll also be hosting a webinar tomorrow morning at 10 in the morning, and I'll include that on a follow-up email, so you could join us at one of those. We're also doing another one in 2 weeks on Friday, so if you can't make tomorrow's, we could definitely walk you through all the additional benefits, not just payables, but receivables, cash management, and deep dive into document management as well later on if you're interested.
Okay, very good. Anything else that you wanted to add? Jamie or Eileen, either one of you? Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up then. Again, I'm going to encourage you to register for the other webinars in the APPFy the Processes webinar series. We still have Concur, T-Sheets, and Avalara coming up over the next few weeks. So I'd love to have you join me for those and learn more about those. Also, the award-winning Ultimate Accounting Decon that I mentioned. If you want to use the code APPFY when you check out, you can register for only $209. And again, I think it's a really great conference with lots of very good information. Sandy Smith-Leva and I partnered together to give you good information to help you grow your practice. There's a few of the sessions that are coming up. But my name is, again, Michelle Long. I want to thank Jamie Blackburn and Eileen Sass for joining me today. Again, subscribe to my blog or the YouTube channel there. And again, if you have additional questions, follow up with Bill.com or register for their webinar again tomorrow because we literally had several hundred people on this call, or over 100, and we just don't have time to get to all those questions in this short period of time. So thank you all for joining us. Watch for the follow-up email. And somebody said, where do we register for the seminar tomorrow? I will put that in the follow-up email that you will get later this afternoon. Okay? All right. So thank you, everybody, for joining me. I hope everybody has a great day, and I'll see you on the other APPFy webinars.